What's going on, awesome people? Welcome to another episode of the Why I Care Impact Retreat IG Live series. Hope you're having a great Saturday. Hopefully you're relaxing a little bit and you're joining us for this wonderful episode with a great conversation I'll be having with a dear friend, Nikki Emadi. Depending on where you are, grab a glass of wine, enjoy some popcorn, sit back and relax as we have a great conversation with an awesome person. Some of you actually may have met her last month December, when I did the Awesome People Instagram live series all December long. And that conversation I had with her kind of evolved to her being involved in the Unite and Conquer 2022 Impact Retreat that we're having in Miami between April 28th and May 1st. And if you haven't heard about the Impact Retreat, in short, it is, in our opinion, the ultimate personal and professional development experience, and it's going to be happening in tropical Miami. We have some incredible presenters that are really touching on all different elements of personal and professional growth, everything from sales to marketing to branding to digital marketing to health and wellness, mental health, PR, communications, community, culture. There's going to be Persian food, Persian-inspired drinks. There's going to be moments on the beach, moments by the park, really bringing in nurture. It's really, there's a lot of beautiful things happening, to be honest with you, between April 28th and May 1st. If you want more information about the Impact Retreat, click the link in my bio so you get some more information, especially if you're a Persian entrepreneur. This is for Persian entrepreneurs, for professionals, and I highly recommend that you check it out. And I promise you that if you do check out the details, if you check out the itinerary, if you see who all the amazing presenters are, it would really hopefully encourage you to apply and be a part of the 10 Uniters that we're picking. And the whole premise behind the IG Live series that we're doing, the Why I Care, is because we as a team really thought that the best way to kind of convey the message of what we're doing is by talking to every single person and sharing why they've chosen to be a part of the Impact Retreat. Because really, everybody who's a part of the retreat, from the presenters especially, they're all volunteering their time. So it's a lot of people that I sincerely appreciate them putting all their energy, their effort, their passion, their experience, their life lessons to share it with other people and help them hopefully grow personally and professionally. So I have so much love and so much respect for each and every single one of them. And of course, including the lovely Nikki Emadi, who's joining us now from Bethesda, Maryland. So I'm going to go ahead and bring her in. And while this is connecting, for my DMV area friends and family, Friday, March 11th, we're having Charsh College Park. So click the link in the bio for that too. Going to be jumping over fire, bring the whole family together. And here comes Nikki Emadi. 3, 2, 1.
Hi.
Hi, Nikki. How are you?
Good timing, Iman. You got it down perfectly.
I got the 3, 2, 1 going now. I always know there's a little bit of lag.
I like it though.
I love the little planters behind you.
Thank you. You know me and my plants. They're my babies.
I love it. You got the green thumb, something that I don't.
It's okay. I'll teach you. One of the things I can teach you at the retreat.
One of the many things, for sure.
Yes.
All right. Well, so speaking of teaching and just your background in general, for those who've never had the pleasure of getting to know you and your background, both personally and professionally, would you mind taking a couple minutes and sharing that background?
Sure, absolutely. So I was born in England, grew up kind of everywhere in the States, all the way from like Nebraska to Iran and then back to DC. And then, and then with my schooling, I did my undergrad in Texas. I did my grad school in Boston. So I got to really be around a lot of different people, but I think one of the important takeaways of me saying how I've been everywhere is that I got to meet a lot of Iranian people, Iranian Americans, Iranian Europeans, Iranians who live in Iran. And I've always been a very kind of like curious child. And I always was fascinated with human behavior and, why we do what we do. And so that's I think the core of what led me into studying psychology and then psychoanalysis. Part of my training in psychoanalysis taught me that I could sort of go into different areas, such as nonprofits or private practice. And so I decided to go into nonprofit work. I worked a lot in inner cities with children, with families. My background is very diverse and vast, but for my career, I decided that I would go into the nonprofit world, and I'm currently the deputy director at Yellow Ribbon Fund, which is a veteran service organization. But that need for that clinical work as far as, understanding human behavior and helping people, especially, again, Iranian Americans, because of my own background, that love was always there. So I had always kind of like a coaching business on the side. Kind of was very focused on my day job for a while. And then in the past couple years, since the pandemic, people started reaching out to me. And then I realized, oh my gosh, there's such a big need now, because everyone's isolated. And obviously there's a lot of time to reflect on, the things that you go through, the way you feel. So I saw there was a need. And so I got back out there. So I currently also have a coaching business where I just see a few clients, but they are currently all Iranian Americans, which is really nice. Obviously, I'm open to seeing, everyone, but it's always special when they're Iranian American.
Of course. So let's kind of like slow things down for a second. Difference between psychology and then psychoanalysis. Can you just kind of break that down, please?
Sure. And it's even deeper than that. One of the unfortunate things I think that gets in the way of people getting help is not understanding the many different tiers of, psychology. Under the branch of psychology, there are many different types of therapists. There are some that do cognitive behavioral therapy, dialectic behavior therapy, behavioral therapy. And so, one of the things that I do in my business, in fact, I don't even do it as a business, I do it just to help the community, is to help you figure out who is the best provider for you. And then to your original question, the difference between psychoanalysis and psychology is psychoanalysis is kind of old school, laying on the couch, getting to your unconscious, understanding psychic conflicts that have happened in your childhood, how early experiences mold the decisions that we make, mold ourselves within the decisions that we make. So there is a difference, a big difference between those different modalities that I talked about under psychology. There's a big difference between that and psychoanalysis, because psychoanalysis is solely interested in getting to the depths of why you are who you are, why you do what you do. And in my opinion, it's good to use both, because then you can go to a therapist who has those cognitive behavioral skills to help you put those changes into action.
Yeah, no, and when you mentioned right now briefly about the things that happened in your childhood, one of the things that you're going to be touching on as a presenter at the Impact Retreat is pretty much the things that were passed down from our Persian parents with Persian culture, some good and some bad. And so, like, why don't you just kind of take a moment and try to give us a little macro level of like what those sessions would be about and what exactly you mean when you're talking about, well, how some of the things that your parents did when you were growing up, how they impacted you positively and negatively.
Sure, that's a great question. We touched on that very briefly during the last live that you and I did. And I received some feedback, and I want to take a moment to kind of address the feedback that I received. It wasn't all negative, but it was more curiosity. Why is it that all therapists want to blame the parents, kind of thing? And it is true that has become sort of this cliche thing in pop culture where you always blame the parents. Even in psychoanalysis, there's an ongoing joke that it says, if it's not one thing, it's your mother. Like so there is some truth to that, but specifically for our culture, I really did want to address this because there's absolutely no blame. There's no blame. It's just that research has shown that childhood experiences literally change the makeup of your brain development during formative years. So this is just science. And for me, being able to study the cultural aspect really gave me a leg up to understanding that childhood experiences is multi-layered. There is a cultural aspect to it, a generational aspect to it. There's a socioeconomic aspect to it. So when I talk about Iranians, I really don't want to I don't want to come across as saying, our culture is bad or that our parents, messed us up, because remember, our parents also had their own struggles and their own parents. Um, Another thing I want to touch on is intergenerational trauma. There's also studies that say the trauma of our parents gets passed down to us, and our trauma gets passed down to our children. And that's why it's important to recognize these things. It's important to be able to, identify what those things were in our childhood that maybe uh, hindered us from the growth that maybe we were capable of. And then the last thing I'll say about, the feedback is, as children of immigrants, we are also very conflicted to even go there, because as you know, and that we talk all the time, how much did our parents, sacrifice for us? We always talk about how grateful we are, how much they sacrificed, how we wouldn't have been able to do any of the things, half the things they did for us. And that stands true. Our identification of the trauma that happens during childhood does not take away from all the sacrifices and all the love and all the gratitude that we have for our parents. So I want that really to be clear and understood, that, they are not mutually exclusive. They go together, everything. So that I rambled on about that, but I did want to address that
No,
aspect
that
of
was
things.
good. That, I mean, I'm glad that you actually brought that up, because blame is really a harsh word to use. It's just the reality of life for immigrants, children of immigrants, and going through the trauma of being kicked out of a country and then having to raise children. I mean, it's just all understandable, and I think we are just trying to understand it as our generation just tries to grow. Both like as we grow as chronologically and just try to grow as far as understanding ourselves and why we do the things that we do. So,
Exactly.
but I do want to kind of like leave this topic on a little positive note, and that is, you mentioned that what you want to do is try to understand how certain aspects of our culture, as taught to us by our parents, may have hindered our growth, and then also some that have helped us grow. What are some elements of our Persian culture that has helped us grow that you can kind of
Yeah.
like just drop a nugget right here, and then the rest, obviously, you're going more in depth in the retreat. But I want to see the positive part that you had in mind.
Absolutely, yeah. And I was going to get to that for sure. And if it's okay with you, I may kind of switch it. I'm going to go into a little bit about
Sure.
why I care about presenting at the retreat, because
Of
obviously it's
course.
why we care, right?
Yeah.
So because of everything that I just mentioned about, childhood experiences and intergenerational trauma, as and working in a nonprofit, and also I also used to work for a nonprofit that was the charitable arm of a corporation. So I've also been in a corporate setting, and this kind of idea evolved a lot in how has have these experiences challenged our professional lives. There were a lot of incidences that happened at work, or just observed with me personally, but also observing other people and also the clients that come to me, that, I was thinking, it's so interesting that, if you took this context and put it into a bunch of Iranian people, things would be a lot more understood. For example, like if there's a argument or something and someone is approaching it in a certain way, as a bystander, I'd be like, oh, I get it, but that guy doesn't get it,
Mm.
and that's sort of like the challenge of when I talk about this cultural aspect to it. So, my goal when you announced this project, and, I was so happy to come on board because you and I have been talking about mental health for such a long time. This was one of the things I was excited to bring as a presenter to the retreat, is let's also talk about how this affects us in our professional lives. And once we identify those things, it's very easy to then recognize it the next time and then to change it. And then you'll see that communication becomes better. As a leader, you become a better, more effective leader, in your own right, in your own industry. And then the success comes very quickly once you shift your perspective on things. So that is also one of the positive things I want to talk about, that there are a lot of things that we have learned in our culture that we can implement into our business and into our professional lives and even into our personal lives. A lot of us, date or have married outside of our culture. And a lot of the things that we were taught growing up, I see it. I see it with my sisters. I see it with my friends, that a lot of things are now being implemented in their household, in their half American, half Iranian household, that will help their children, you know? So the idea, again, going back to the blame thing, the whole idea is like, we're lucky enough to be able to have two different cultures. Let's take both best of, you know, both, and be able to grow from that. But let's also recognize the challenges from both and be able to move on from that.
Absolutely. So transitioning into the why you care. So what is it that you hope to accomplish when these two sessions that you're doing on that Friday and Saturday, the end goal is for what?
So the sessions are broken up into two because, you know, we are going to have 10 amazing people joining us there. And really want to get in depth into those sessions. So the sessions will consist of sharing stories. You know, storytelling is the first aspect of being able to get to know each other and yourself. Through storytelling, we can learn so much about just humans in general, but ourselves as well. So we'll start off with, I will share my stories and the things that I want to discuss, and then hopefully other people will be able to relate and they will share their stories. So that will take hopefully that'll take a long time, because we really want to get into the depths of it, right? We really want to get to know each other
Sure.
during this time that we're together. So the goal, the end goal of that, is to be able to find commonalities in the challenges that we faced, whether it's professional or personal, or you know, in relationships, whether it's friendship, romantic, or, you know, parental. The goal is to be able to find commonalities, and then I hope to be able to bring some real life solutions and, you know, tips and tricks on how to maneuver these challenges in our daily lives. And so the hope is to, again, present that, but also to have like 10 new family members that you can always depend on and always count on and always go to when you're stuck in those challenges. And you can say, remember at the retreat we were talking about such and such thing, like, what do you think, how do you think we should do that? Like, that's my vision. That's really my goal, is we'll be able to be there for each other, and then those 10 people will grow into a community where we'll always be able to be a phone call away, because these challenges are not going to go away. And in fact, as I alluded to the fact that we're, you know, marrying interculturally, we also want to be able to impart that on our children, so we can also help each other in that aspect, you know. So I don't know, I have big dreams, but that's it for now.
I love it. So one thing that I had a friend of mine mention a couple of days ago, because, you know, this is obviously the first time that we're doing the impact retreat. Like, we still don't know exactly who the 10 people are going to be, their personalities, their upbringings. We know they're going to be Persian and English speaking, but other than that, we don't know. And one thing that my friend was saying was that, Iman, you know, like, Persians are just very reserved as far as being open about, you know, their challenges and stuff like that. What do you expect from these individuals? Meaning, like, why do you think Persians in general are very, they have this wall up to protecting themselves from sharing? Any thoughts about the reservations that some of the Persians might have as
Yeah,
they're
I
in the
mean,
setting with strangers?
yeah, that's a really good point and a good question, and I have thought about that. Um, you know, I'm going to be honest with you. There is the earlier when we were talking, I told you that years ago I had started coaching in a therapeutic manner, and I really wanted to reach Iranian Americans and or Iranian, you know, just Iranians that have been here, you know, even not long. And I was met with a lot of resistance. I mean, there was an initial interest, and then I would go to do an evaluation and we would talk, and, you know, usually the expectation was, fix us, fix what the problem, fix me, you know. And if I couldn't fix them, they were gone, you know. And so, and I, again, no, this isn't blame, but they weren't willing to put in the work, you know. And the work means being vulnerable, and it's very hard.
Right.
It's very hard, I have to say. Even as a therapist myself, it is very difficult, because I go to therapy, I try to go as regularly as I can, because I think it's important for me to have a clear mind, and for me to be at peace, and for me to be able to function, to take everybody else's load. I want to carry their load, you know. But even for me, it's hard because there are things that come up in therapy that are very difficult. They hurt, you know. We're walking around with years and years and years of baggage of thoughts and feelings and unresolved issues, and even things that we're not even aware of. We're walking around with trauma that we're not even aware of, that we haven't even brought into our consciousness. All that to say, I completely understand it. And then, you know, slap on this stigma of Magidivune, Magidivunam, you know, that's the stigma. That's the, you know, I'm not crazy or not. I don't need anybody to tell me, you know, again, no fault of their own. It's the way we were brought up. It's the way that our culture is, you know. So for me, when I'm faced with that challenge, I like to start slow. And that's why we need 2 days, you
Mhm.
know, because I have kind of thought about this, you know, what happens on the first day if everybody's just quiet, right? And I think the more that I talk and the more that I share and the more that I provide information, I have a lot of information I'd like to share with everybody. And I have a lot of examples I'd like to share with everybody. And during the first day, I have, you know, different activities that we can do and different worksheets that we can work on. You know, some people just prefer to like do homework, and that's okay. So I have homework, you know, like, so there are many ways to get to that. But to answer your question, I think it's simply the way we were brought up. And my goal is to shift the culture. I just want us to work hard enough and stick with this long enough to where we can really see a shift in the Iranian hyphenate culture.
I mean, I love the words of shifting culture, and that's really what I love about this group that we have together that are collectively trying to shift our culture. Even if it's 1 millimeter of moving towards a positive direction, all of us would be extremely proud of that, you know, because at least we're headed the right direction. And you know, like of all the individuals, not to take anything away from anybody else that's participating and presenting, but I genuinely appreciate what you're bringing to the table because first of all, it's a topic that, you know, vulnerability, it's like tough topics to talk about. Like it really, you have to kind of like, you know, go right deep into your stomach and be able to like share these things. But also you personally have really kind of stuck your neck out, you know, in our group Zooms and sharing things that have been your challenges in the past. You've shared it with me personally. And it's, even though we've known each other for a few years, we've never really been close until the past couple of months. And you've shared so much, and that takes a lot of strength. And that's exactly the type of person that I would like to be able to present this topic, because you're walking the walk and not just talking about it, you know. And so
Thank
I
you.
admire that about you. I respect that about you. I love that about you. And I hope that as you continue to share your own personal challenges, it will really get some other individuals who may have been reserved to open up and share to do that. Obviously, we don't want to push anybody and force anybody during those two
No.
days, but you know, hopefully they'll just feel more comfortable um, accepting that, hey, you know what, you're not the only person that's gone through these troubles, and there's other people around you that have had gone similar paths. Point is, I love what you're doing. It's amazing, and I'm
Thank
very
you.
grateful that you've chosen to lend your valuable time, because you're already busy as it is, to kind of help this movement. So thank you for all
Thank
that.
you. I mean, thanks for saying that. And honestly, I'm so glad you brought that up because, again, like you said, a lot of people don't know that, you know, I mean, you have definitely brought it up, and I'm so glad that you have. But, you know, behind the scenes, we meet every night. We have been talking every night for months and, you know, really gotten to know each other. Those of us who have volunteered our times and teamed up with you and really believe in being able to provide this. And even through that journey, I've observed, you know, I've been sort of quietly studying and observing the shift that's happened with us. And I absolutely want to emulate that, you know, in those 10 people and moving forward. Because you're right, you know, and it's not just me, but you're right. I am definitely more open to talking about things, which is one of the things that, you know, our culture doesn't, they don't appreciate it, in the sense that they're not used to it. And there are people who still, especially our parents' generation, who think of it as a bad thing, who think of it as an embarrassing thing. And, you know, I've, since I was young, have always gone against that. And I have to really give a big shout out to my parents because, you know, I have pushed so hard against our cultural norms And my parents have been so great in really studying this with me and trying to learn with me and really trying to shift in our family, our culture, to be more comfortable. When I talk about very like deep, painful things to other people, you know, now I notice that my parents really have my back and really are like, you know, also share their feelings about it. And that within our extended family has kind of had a trickle effect, you know. Other people I find in my family have also been a little bit more open to talking about things. And that's the goal, you know. One person being putting it all out there and saying, there's nothing wrong with that. What if our parents were wrong? What if it's wrong? Well, you know what? And that's okay. It's our responsibility to grow and change and do things differently. You know, there are many things in history that have been incorrect, especially now. And in fact, now is the time because there is a global shift. There is a seismic shift happening everywhere with women becoming more, uh, involved in certain things. And, you know, there's always been women's liberation, but it's a lot more now. It feels a lot stronger now, you know, and there's a lot more allies with all of the different, groups of people who are maybe overshadowed in the past.
Absolutely. Nikki, before I let you go and get back to enjoying your Saturday, I want to kind of ask you, why is it so important for you to help bring the Persian community, especially in our case, the English-speaking community, together? Because in the grander picture, that's what Unite and Conquer is trying to do. You know, like the Impact Retreat is just one component of this. But really, our hope is to be able to produce content where other people like you and I can kind of call our virtual home and just learn from each other and get inspired from each other. Why is that important for you? Why do you want to be a part of this journey?
Great question. Um, the truth is that I was isolated from the Iranian community for a very long time. And part of it was my frustration with feeling, so there's two reasons. One, for I felt like an alien from our community because I was against the grain. You know, this way of thinking that I have has been there since I was a child. And so I always was the outspoken one and the, you know, just different. I don't want to go into like the how I am as a person. You already know, people who know me know, and hopefully other people will get to know me. But
Yeah.
I've just been different. So I haven't felt accepted in that community. And vice versa. I don't think the Iranian community really, I don't know. I think it was a mutual thing for a long time, but I do have to take responsibility and say the more I isolated, the harder that issue came of being a part of the Iranian scene, you know, as we used to call it. But I really want to think of it as a community now. And also, I have a niece and nephew who are half Iranian, half American. They love their Iranian side. They love the Iranian culture. You know, they're coming to visit us for Nowruz. They both, you know, are so excited for Nowruz, you know. So when I think about the fact that like every individual needs to take the step to move forward if they want a change. And I've always been that from the very beginning. I've always said, you know, I want to advocate for change. Again, in our culture, I would hear one person can't make a difference, you know, you know. And so, but I kept true to that. So there's no difference between that and this. Like, why would I always complain about Iranians without really taking the initiative, the step, the advocacy to do something about it? If I put in 110% and I still feel shut out, then I have room to talk. But if I'm just going to sit back and talk shit, no, like that, I'm not about that, you know? So that's why.
No, and see, I appreciate how you even answer that question with such honesty and sincerity. And Azadeh Yazdi, who's one of our friends and one of the presenters, who's going to be an IG live guest next Friday, she just said we don't embrace each other like we see a lot of other non-Persian communities, and really like that's why we all, I think, love what we're doing, is the fact that we're doing the thing that we've been complaining about as far as not existing. So at least we're doing our part. And I couldn't be more proud of the group of individuals that we have. We have a lot of great different personalities, incredible minds, a lot of diverse backgrounds, and we're all working together to hopefully be a good good torchbearer, you know, like I feel like we all have a responsibility to pass on our culture and the good and the bad, and the hopes that the next generation is better than our generation, you know. And so I'm
Absolutely.
excited. I'm excited for this journey, Nikki, and thank you so much for your time and your insight, and looking forward to what the next couple of months have for us.
Thank you. Same here. I'm so excited. And anytime you need me, I'm here, Iman. You know that.
All right, Nikki June. Shabbat B'khair, and see you soon. And as Nikki logs off, feel free to click the link in my bio for more information about the Impact Retreat. Again, if you haven't heard about it yet, please check out the link. Check out the video that kind of paints a clear picture in 2 minutes. And we'd love to have the most amazing Persian entrepreneurs all around the world congregating together in Miami, April 28th through May 1st of this year. Thank you so much, and for all of you who joined the comments. Appreciate it. Mahtov Jun, I know you're one of the uniters. Thank you so much for being a part of this. And everybody else who joined in, appreciate you. Ranaro, Blue Sky, much love. Thank you. Everybody else, appreciate it. And God bless. Unite and conquer.